Hey, good morning. Terry here, and welcome to Times Gone Tech. It is Sunday morning, about 6:30 a.m. Time to get started. So, this is an early 14th century German medieval hand-gunner known as a Hackenbusche. Yeah, some assembly is still required. I got it from a company in Oklahoma called the Rifle Shop. Now, they're an interesting company by themselves if you don't know about them. It'd be worth your time to go on the internet and have a look. They do have a website. But they specialize in making as historically accurate as is practically possible reproductions of parts, replacement parts for existing primitive firearms. For example, if you happen to have an actual 1800 Baker rifle and you need a trigger guard, they might have one. They do this by, they take original models, disassemble them, they make molds off of all the parts, take all the dimensions off of the stock, and then they recreate those parts the way they were made back in the old days. They don't cut everything out from a piece of steel from a plasma torch or a CNC machine. For example, this is the hook for the Hackenbusche, and it is cast steel. This is the casting gate. This thing was, and you can still have the mold flashing is still on it. We'll get into that in a minute. But yeah, this thing was not cut out with a plasma torch or anything. It was hand cast. So, what does all that mean? Well, first of all, they don't sell what they call kits. They don't call this a kit. This is not a gun kit from the rifle shop. It is a parts set. And there's a reason that they do that. I would say you could call it a kit, just an advanced level kit. This is not something you're going to take out of a box, put it together, take it outside and start shooting it. That's not going to happen with anything from the rifle shop. Everything comes in maybe about 95% finished, but that remaining 5% that you have to do, that can represent a lot of work. If you order, say that all the parts needed to make a flintlock, just a lock, and yeah, they'll sell you a lock set of parts. They're going to come in just like this. They're going to come in rough cast, the casting gate's still on them, nothing drilled, nothing tapped, nothing fit together. That means you got to make the lock. They'll give you the parts, and then you make the lock. You even have to harden the springs. They don't even harden the springs for you. Now, they will for an extra charge, and if they have time, they'll also assemble the lock for you for about what the lock costs. So it'll double the cost of the lock, but they will do it if they have time. So they make the replacement parts, they put everything together in a box, ship it to us, and then we have to finish it up. But notice something, this barrel does not fit. It should fit down flush with the top. It doesn't fit. It's got to be made to fit. Again, I've already talked about the hook. This is a serpentine lever that will hold a burning match cord. It hasn't even been bent into shape yet. This has been put onto it, just the basic shape. Again, about 95%, and then I got to do the remaining 5%. It's actually came finished a little more than I expected it, because this is no secret about the rifle shop. They even say on their website, they're only going to finish everything about 95%, and then you got to do the rest yourself. Now, I'll talk more about that as I get into putting this thing together, all right? But I don't want to bore you too much on this early on a Sunday morning. So, why a Hackenbusche? Well, I wanted to get back into making my own guns, which I had done in the past several times. And I knew about the rifle shop, and I thought I would start with something of theirs. But I didn't want to jump in over my head, or at least too far over my head. So I wanted to start with something I knew I could finish, but not the the most basic, simplest thing that they have. So this was actually the second most basic, simplest thing they have. They had one more that was actually easier to do than this. I opted out on that and I went with this one. But more importantly than that, there is an historic significance to the Hackenbusche that a lot of other guns don't have. This is actually the beginning of what we would recognize as a firearm. This is the beginnings of the lock, which would fit here, lock, stock, and barrel. Other firearms in the past before that were either stuck on the end of a pole or they were strapped down on top of a pole, right? This is the first time that the stock was actually recessed inlet to hold the barrel in place. It's also the first time historically that the method of making the barrels that this is made to resemble was used. Now, this was not made using those historically accurate methods, okay, for both cost and safety reasons. Originally, handguns were cast. They were cast in bronze or iron. Cannons weren't, because they didn't have the casting technology at that time to cast something that big, but handguns were. And this represents the first time that a different approach was taken. It's more like making cannons at the time. Instead of just casting this, they took a flat steel bar, wrapped it around a mandrel, forge welded the seam together. Now the problem with that was, and that is the technique, by the way, that dominated barrel making technology right up into the early to mid 19th century. So for about 400 years, that's how gun barrels were made. The problem is those seams tended to split open a lot. A lot of these failed. So they added iron rings to it. This one has 5 rings, and this has actually been machined out of just some bar stock. It's been made to look like it was made using the original techniques. But this would have been a piece of flat bar stock wrapped around a mandrel, forge welded. Then these like yellow hot iron rings would have been slipped over it. And as they cooled down, they would shrink against the barrel, holding it in place. And then for the breech, they did not have threaded breech plugs. The tap and die would not be invented until the 1500s. So they had a solid bar fit into another tube, fit inside the barrel tube, all held together with this one ring. They drilled the touch hole, and then the whole thing was fit down inside this stock. And the purpose for this was to keep the bolt from the plug from blowing out the back into the face of the shooter. It's a very interesting technique. If they had made a barrel even this size using that technique, first of all, just the barrel itself would cost a couple $1,000s just from the labor charges. And then they would have such a high failure rate. People would be blowing their faces off with these things. So I'm sure that's why they make them that way. And I prefer that also. It's okay with me. It doesn't have to be made exactly the same. But anyway, let's talk about this stock. This is kind of rough. This stock is kind of rough. Again, it's about 95% finished, but that remaining 5% is a lot of work. I'm going to have to do a lot of work on the inlaying here, inlets, to get the barrel to fit in right. And notice, look, on the serpentine lever, they didn't even drill the hole out for attaching the serpentine lever. I've got to do that myself. They don't do any of that. This came in pre-made. I appreciate that. I don't know what the hook is for, but it comes with it. It's in the original design. There's a little bit of rust on it. I'll have to clean that up and do something with it. And then these hold downs, let me show you that. And these are hold downs, not tenons. There are tenons, these are not. But these would fit over like so. Like so. And then this fits through it. Fits through the stock and holds it on there, but it's not even been fit to the stock. It hasn't been drilled. There's just nothing finished about it. It's been basically shaped, and that's it. The rest is up to me to finish it up. It does have the touch hole has been drilled. That's good. And that's pretty much it. It's got some machine marks all over it on the outside, very light though, but still, they're both visible and you can feel them. And then on the inside, the bore, I can feel machine marks with my finger. So it hasn't been crowned, which they didn't do then. I might anyway just improve the performance a little, but it hasn't had that done. And the bore definitely needs honing in order to really improve efficiency. This hook has got to be, well, the casting gate's got to be cut off, and it's got to be sanded, filed, ground, polished. I mean, it's rough. So there it is, a more or less historically accurate reproduction of a 1400s, 15th century, first cup of coffee still, 15th century, early 1400s Hackenbusche. So this is going to take me probably about 3, maybe 4 videos to finish up. I'll try not to spread them out too far. And yeah, we'll get started on it, and I'll tell you a little bit more about the history and development and importance to the firearms technology of the Hackenbusche. This is going to be so cool. Oh yeah, baby.